On the Indo-Pak debate tonight on why Pakistan has to do this, if there is any sense of purpose in what that statement was of the NSA after the meeting in New York, why is Pakistani doing this regardless? With us this evening from New Delhi is Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary. Joining us from Islamabad is Syed Tariq Pirzada, Strategic Affairs Analyst. With me in the studios here in New Delhi is Senior BJP Leader Subramaniam Swamy, and joining Tariq Pirzada in the studios in Islamabad is Senator Professor Sajid Mir, who is the President of the Markazi Jamiat Ahle Hadith of Pakistan, which is a religio-political party closely aligned with the PMLN. It is part of the Islamic Muttahida Majlis-e-Amal. And also joining us in the studios in Delhi is Maruf Raza, Times Now strategic affairs expert, someone greatly respected for his insight on Pakistan's strategic affairs. And from Karachi is member of the Central Coordination Committee of the MQM, the Muttahida Qawmi Movement, Haider Abbas Rizvi. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin the debate. So why do you think this is being done, Maruf? Let's put this in perspective. The Prime Minister was having these talks in New York, and if you look at the dates in which the attempted incursion in Kairan was happening, it was almost around those dates.
Well, I mean, to give Nawaz Sharif the benefit of doubt, I would say that as in the case of Kargil, but perhaps lesser so now, the military in Pakistan is certainly not keeping Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif completely in the loop. Nawaz Sharif is not entirely in control, so therefore New Delhi, to expect him to deliver on all counts on India-Pakistan relationship, I've always argued, is expecting too much too soon from him. Having said that, the weather conditions being what they are in the LOC area and the winter setting in any time, it is exactly at this point of time that infiltrations of this nature would be attempted en masse to ensure that a maximum number of people can be pushed in before the snows set in. Yes. And finally, those hardliners in Pakistan's establishment who want to embarrass Nawaz Sharif, who don't want India-Pakistan process to go forward, and there is certain merit in the Indian argument that India-Pakistan relationship should move cautiously forward, not be too excited about what are the deliverables post-New York. Those elements are certainly supporting them within the military establishment and on the ground.
So you have no doubt that there's a Pakistani army imprint is on this incident in India?
Certainly. I mean, to say that Pakistan's army had no role in it is to say that Pakistan army doesn't have a presence on the LOC from where they have infiltrated. And there is a large chunk of land which is under the army's observation and control. So how can any group of 30-40 militants go across? Now some Pakistani friends of ours may argue that these are the guys who've lost their way from the valley into the Karen sector.
You believe
and
that?
Suddenly, I mean, that is completely absurd, but it had been argued in the past, so I'm cautioning you that this argument will be thrown
let's see if the argument comes forward. My first question to the Senator, Professor Sajid Mir. Sir, you are closely associated with the PMLN and therefore you are part of the ruling establishment in Pakistan. Why would Nawaz Sharif allow something like this to do? And most people in India believe that whatever the Pakistani army is trying to do is with the permission of Nawaz Sharif. Senator, why is this happening?
I think people in Pakistan have the same feelings as you are expressing. We also feel that when Nawaz Sharif tried to negotiate with India and put a step forward towards it, at the same time Pakistani soldiers were attacked on the line of control. Some were killed, some were wounded, and we have the same feeling that the establishment or the army in India doesn't want peace with Pakistan. So I think the time is that instead of creating these doubts or instead of propagating these things at this juncture of time, instead of that we should talk about peace, and we should, instead of expressing our doubts, instead of expressing our impressions of the past, let us move forward to the future.
Want peace, just a minute,
just a minute.
The Prime Minister and Nawaz Sharif agreed in New York
if you
want to improve the relationship, you must start by improving the situation around the LOC.
Let me finish, please. Let me finish. Let me talk. I have come here to talk, not just to listen. I want to say that if you have the feeling that the establishment or the army in Pakistan doesn't want peace with India, we have the same feeling and we have proofs for that. And you are always talk of infiltration one-sidedly. We also talk here of infiltration from India in Fatah, in Balochistan, in Karachi, everywhere. So let us together,
I am talking about the LOC. I'm talking about the LOC, and this attack takes place 450 meters inside Indian territory. It's a classical military ambush. It could not have been the work of terrorists or irregulars.
If you want to have me on board, don't disturb me, please.
Professor Sajid Mir, Professor, you know,
yes,
this is regular Pakistani talk. They always deny it, and later, you know, they write books about how the Pakistani army was involved in the attack. Let me finish what I want to say. Let me finish,
then you can talk. Listen, one thing is very clear. At this juncture of time, if we want to move forward towards peace, we should not talk about the past. We should not talk even about the recent past. If we start talking, it will be on both sides. It will not be one-sided. Oh, no. So we have been facing infiltration from India for years now.
Senator, you know, the past is looking at the past. Looking at the past is very instructional and very useful for everyone, especially all of us here in India.
Very useful.
Because I would like to just quickly remind you before I go back, Subramaniam Swamy and Maruf Raza both want to respond to you. Professor, 1 minute.
If you want to look at the past, let me also look at your past.
Sir, 1 minute. Sir, 1 minute. Sir, 1 minute. You are saying that what has happened in Keren is not done by the Pakistani army. How do I believe that? And this is the reason why I don't believe that. Because a 100-page white paper published by the PMLN, which you are associated with, in 2006, it was titled Kargil Adventurism, Who is Responsible for Another Defeat? And this is what it said. The Kargil misadventure was Musharraf's own brainchild, and Nawaz Sharif was never taken into confidence as was claimed by Parvez Musharraf. This is the white paper of the PMLN, sir, with which you are associated with. In other words, you yourself agree that the Pakistani army has been pushing its people and special forces into India while continuing to deny to do so. So why should we trust what you are saying in Keren? Subramaniam Swamy and Maruf are both responding. Subramaniam Swamy, please, who's the leader of the BJP, is responding to you.
See, first of all, let me say there is no such thing as a Pakistani government. There are 3 or 4 Pakistani governments there. They function independently. The worst part is the civilian government is more or less subservient to the other 3. The ISI, the military and the hardline clerics. So we have to first understand, it's no use saying Musharraf, why would Musharraf do this or Nawaz Sharif do this. Today the issue is that the Pakistani civilian government cannot be held responsible. Now, can you imagine the...
Do you feel they should or should not be held responsible?
No, they can't be because they can't count for anything.
But the Pakistani
people who have to be held responsible is the Pakistani army, the ISI and the hardline clerics. These are the people. We have to understand their psyche. There is no room presently for a peaceful exchange of ideas with Pakistan, because these 3 people are under the impression that this is a weak government, and I think recent events have further confirmed it. And the fact that the Prime Minister of Pakistan can say to an Indian journalist that and compare the Indian Prime Minister to a Dehati Aurat.
Well, that's another issue. That's another
that's an issue because it shows the contempt they have for the government of India. Well, so you cannot have any negotiations with Pakistan till a stronger government comes to power and deals with Pakistan on the basis that they understand what force means.
Before I go across for a response from Syed Tariq Pirzada in Islamabad, Maruf wants to make a quick counter comment. Maruf,
just 2 quick points. One is that we often make the mistake in India to perceive that Pakistan functions the way India does. So we look at Pakistan from an Indian prism. And in Pakistan, as Professor Javid Mir has just brought out, they perceive that the Indian army here is as powerful as the Pakistan army is in decision making. The Indian army, sir, doesn't operate outside a political brief, and this government, if it wanted to create trouble on the LOC, it wouldn't go out of its way against public opinion to go and have talks with Pakistan. That's the first point. And the second point, you keep bringing up about Balochistan. Even the National Security Advisor of India and several governments in several governmental meetings in India have said, give us evidence. There is no evidence. Even Akbar Ahmed, in his recent book on the thistle and the drone, and he's an eminent Pakistani scholar, has had a whole chapter on Balochistan, and there's not a word of mention there. And this is a recent publication which has just come out. Okay. Not a word is mentioned about India's role in Balochistan. So please go back and do a little homework and give us evidence. And where was Balochistan's problem before 9/11?
Okay, Maruf,
Pakistan claims that India
Maruf,
got involved. Last 50 years, what have you done with Baluchistan? Why blame us?
As I go across for a response, I think both Haider Abbas Rizvi and Syed Tariq Pirzada still need to come into the debate. But to both of you gentlemen, I'd like to add a little bit of substance into why India is totally convinced about the Pakistani army hand. There are 4 reasons. One, this happened during the changeover of a battalion. In other words, it was timed exactly after the 20 Kumaon regiment had handed over charge to the 3x3 Gorkha rivals. That's fingerprint number 1. Second, a group of 20 men led the ambush. This proves that these were Pakistani army soldiers. The third is reconnaissance missions and radio intercepts have shown that attempts were made to set up supply and logistic lines to the infiltrators from across the LOC in totally the same fashion as it is done for regular troops. So, what is proven, QED, Syed Tariq Pirzada, is you try to hide the fact of your Pakistani soldiers' involvement. You've been thoroughly exposed. You have been thoroughly exposed. This was a Pakistani army operation.
Well, you know, Arnab, your problem is that you talk more than you listen. So let's start with point 1. Number 1, the Indian Army has been totally exposed as a result of the recent disclosure that your ex-Chief of Army Staff, V.K. Singh, was launching operations outside the spectrum of law, Indian law.
Is this the only way you have to dodge the real issue?
No.
You have no other excuse to dodge the real issue, Syed Tariq Pirzada.
Let me say one thing.
Are you short of excuses tonight, not to address the real subject?
All right. Point number two. India is the biggest violator of Simla Agreement. Because if you read the last paragraph, and I'm not giving you a lecture.
Sir, you don't want to talk about what the infiltration that your soldiers did in
Hold on. Since you are going into the past, let me give you a little lecture on that. Let me honestly say. It says the last paragraph is the largest component of Simla Agreement. It says that the 2 heads of states shall meet at a convenient time, and in the meantime, the representatives of the 2 governments shall meet to arrange modalities and technicalities to resolve the issue of Jammu and Kashmir.
So you want to go into history, then I can counter you with history, but I don't want to do that. I want to live in the present.
What are you talking about cross-border incursions?
I want to live in the present. You're going back into history. If you want to go back into history, then let me tell you.
A minute ago.
Let me tell you, sir, if you're responding with history, then let me tell you equally.
Didn't you say, let me talk about what Swami said, Subramaniam Swami said. You know, BJP has a very dark history. And Mr. Swami has nothing much to brag about. Take a look at the history. I'm not going to give you the example. It is the darkest thing that the Indian political culture has is the Rashtriya Sevak Sangh and BJP. They need to be ashamed. And Babri Mosque is still a living symbol. The demolition of that is a living symbol of what they actually do.
Will you avoid the real issue?
Let's march on.
If you want to talk about Pirzada, I'd like to draw you back to the debate. We are talking about an incident of betrayal that happened while your Prime Minister was talking to our Prime Minister in New York. And you know what?
There is no betrayal. There is no betrayal. You guys bomb Pakistani side. You have more guns. You have a larger army. And you are saying Pakistan bombs you more than you do.
You are not. No, sir. Mr. Pirzada, you are not addressing the issue. We are talking about
the issue is that you are not talking about the real issue, which is the issue of Jammu and Kashmir and its resolution under Simla Agreement. Talk about that.
If you want to talk about Jammu and Kashmir, I can have another debate on it. Sir, you don't want
No. Sir, what you're talking about, when you say that there was an incident from Pakistan, as my colleague said a minute ago, you guys launch incursions into Pakistan every other day. Every other day.
You have brought up this masjid demolition question because in Pakistan, when Musharraf was there, he demolished about 6 masjids in a row to build a road. Saudi Arabia is demolishing masjids all the time. So what is it that you are so concerned? In your own country you are demolishing masjids. Why should you object?
No, let's not get into
why should he bring it up? Somebody in India can bring it up, but they cannot bring it up. Pakistanis cannot bring it up.
The ones we are
and how many temples you have been demolishing?
This is not the... No, 1 second. This is...
peace talks at all.
Senator, may I draw the debate back to the subject, because I want to say one thing to you. I don't think any Indian is proud about the destruction of the Babri Masjid.
Nobody says they're proud. I said they have the right.
That is not the subject tonight.
Look at
They don't have a right to. They brought it up. I didn't bring it
The
up.
subject tonight is this. The subject tonight is this, and let's not divert. The subject is this. Haider Abbas Rizvi.
It's a house of
There are
corruption and
telltale
terror,
signs,
which
Mr.
there is nothing
Rizvi,
that you
of
have
Pakistan's
to
involvement, the
brag about.
Pakistani army involvement. There are fingerprints of the Pakistani
No,
army
there is
all
no
over the
involvement
Kairan
by
incident.
Pakistani army.
Why would your army do
Pakistani
something
army
like
has
this?
its own work cut out. They are fighting on two fronts, and they don't have time for sending few bunch of people across.
Exactly, then don't open up another front or you'll get a battering. Haider Abbas Rizvi, why would the Pakistani army be
700,000
adventurous now?
troops in the Indian held Kashmir. They don't have to send couple of people. If there would be
So
any
your
problem,
figures
then
about Indian troops keep varying depending on how it suits your argument. If we had 700,000 troops in Kashmir, the Indian army is 1.1 million strong. Are you trying to say that the rest of the one-fourth of the Indian army is deployed against China and fighting insurgency in peacetime locations?
One second.
You've got your figures wrong, sir. Do your homework.
That question was to Haider Abbas Rizvi, sir. Why do you think there is so much adventurism from the Pakistani army?
These are other elements also.
Mr. Rizvi, if you can hear me, my question is to you. I'm trying to put that question to Karachi. Haider Abbas Rizvi. One second. Mr. Rizvi, can you hear me? No, I think I've lost. I think I lost. Okay, clearly I lost the audio line. The Kanwar Sibal, the standard response from Pakistan from both Senator Professor Sajid Mir as well as Syed Tariq Pirzada is that of total denial of any hand in Kairan. Now, as an experienced diplomat, how would you respond to them, sir?
First of all, I find this debate very pointless because I've seen it before also. The Pakistanis who come on your show are absolutely determined not to have a reasonable debate. And they go off the point and they are vituperative and they raise all sorts of irrelevant issues. And if you get down to their level and begin debating with them, it is pointless. Then we are straying away from the subject and we're not going to go anywhere because they're never going to admit that they're guilty of anything. And this is the story of the last 65 years. So what's the point in trying to convince them to admit that? Come on. Come on, let me say this. Since you're provoking me, let me say this. Come on. Are these 70,000 Kashmiris Pakistanis? What is your claim on them? What is your claim on them?
They are Muslims.
You talk about Babri Masjid. Was it a Pakistani masjid? Then the whole bloody Muslim world is your brother. And you stand up for all their causes. You stop.
It was not a Hindu masjid.
You stop interfering.
Have you heard any Pakistani
you stop interfering in the internal affairs of country.
Hindu temple?
You are die-hard communalists. You are die-hard communalists. There cannot be any rational dialogue with you. You are the guys who divided India. You are not satisfied with having Pakistan. You have territorial designs on us.
Piece of land that was illegally sold because of undue influence.
You are die-hard communalists. You cannot have a rational dialogue with you.
Go back into history.
Community. This is the
one second. Syed Tariq Pirzada, I request you. You see, Kanwar Sibal heard you and he didn't interrupt you when you were speaking.
What is your right to talk about internal affairs of India? Whatever we do to Babri Masjid or Muslims,
it is my right because I'm a strategic affairs analyst. I've been invited to speak on the show just to let you know that you really are on the wrong side of it.
It's unfortunate you've been invited.
I think the issue at hand is the escalation. One second. The issue at hand is very simple. I don't know why we are veering away.
No, let me come to the point.
To some point, let us not veer away. No, one second. I just want to reiterate the point once again to all our panelists so that we can go back to that with your permission, sir. Coming back to you, Kanwar Sibal, I just want to reiterate what we are discussing. On the Newshour tonight, we are discussing the marked escalation, the repeated incursions by the Pakistani army in a specific sector in Jammu and Kashmir, exactly at the same time as India was attempting, despite the Prime Minister, despite public opinion, was having a handshake with Nawaz Sharif. We are talking about a grand betrayal once again, and that's what we are talking about tonight. Kanwar Sibal, before I come back to you, I lost the audio link with Haider Abbas Rizvi. Well, why is the Pakistani army being adventurous, Mr. Rizvi? I'll come back to you, Mr. Sibal.
Let me. Okay.
Are you talking to me right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. just want to tell you that for the very first thing, that the way we are talking to each other from the Pakistan side and from the India side, I don't think that it's going to help the situation like that. And I want to tell you point blankly that the people of Pakistan and the Parliament of Pakistan and the Prime Minister of Pakistan wants a better relation with our neighboring country, India. Being proud Pakistani, I want to let you know another thing, that the Prime Minister, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, contacted the Indian Honorable Prime Minister to have a meeting. And if you believe that the government of Pakistan or any institution of Pakistan are trying to sabotage this peace dialogue, we don't believe that. We are having the same kind of complaints from the other side. But is this the real way, the way we are talking tonight, will help the situation? I doubt it very much. Our Prime Minister, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, have offered your Honorable Prime Minister that our generals can sit together, they can talk together, the DGMOs can interchange, they can have a dialogue, and then they can exactly figure out that what happened. So until unless we'll do so, it's just the blame game are being played on the both sides of the border. So what I request with the Indian media and with the Pakistani media,
for
with
all
the
the sincerity
Indian
of your
bureaucracy and Pakistani bureaucracy to hold on, we have to improve upon the situation. There are so many elements who don't want to see India and Pakistan go in hand, because we are one of the largest economy on the face of the earth.
How do we care?
So kindly give peace a chance.
Mr. Rizvi, simple question to you, and Maruf wants to respond to you directly today. I appreciate your sincerity. Maybe you want peace with Pakistan.
How do you know that Maruf wants to respond?
I don't know about Nawaz Sharif. I have question marks. Many people have question marks here about Nawaz Sharif's own background. But the fact is, the only limited fact is, I'm coming to Kawal Sibal actually is rebutting here, August 14th, first infiltration. August 18th, second infiltration. These infiltration attempts are happening just before the ministry meeting in New York. What you're telling me is that you have no control over your Pakistani army? Then all the talks are pointless. Your claims of wanting peace are completely farcical. Kawal Sibal first. Kawal Sibal wants to come in. I'll come to you, Maruf. Kawal Sibal, please.
Let's take the facts on the ground. The Pakistan army has never admitted that they are responsible for infiltration or pushing terrorists into India. The Pakistan government has never admitted that. Retired Pakistani prime ministers have written, retired Pakistani generals have written admitting to what they have been doing. But serving civilian governments, prime ministers never admit that. So therefore I don't expect the Pakistani panelists today to admit that actually this is going on. So therefore we'll never win this debate. But let me come to these DGMOs. Now this was supposedly the most important outcome of the meeting between the two prime ministers. Now the DGMO can deal with the conduct of the armed forces on the respective sides, which means state actors. But if the Pakistani side claims that either there are no non-state actors, or if there are, they have no control over them, then I'm afraid the agreement between the DGMOs is not going to cover the activity of the non-state actors. The sincere way to go around doing this, if the Pakistani side wanted to actually curb these incidents and stabilize the line of control, would be on the Pakistani side to establish the same kind of anti-insurgency or anti-militancy grid of 5 kilometers depth that we have created on our side, which the Pakistani side should create, patrol, monitor and make sure there is no hostile movement across that by anybody into India. That's number one. Number two, they should share information with us, because we intercept messages coming from the other side for receivers at this end to facilitate infiltration. If they are sincere, they should share information with us. Number three, there should be more meetings at the divisional headquarters level, at the brigade level, so that this insurgency, this militancy, this terrorism is controlled. But if they don't do that, I'm afraid this DGMO's mechanism is going to be an eyewash. It's not going to produce any results, because it will not cover non-state actors. And unless Pakistan admits, even if they don't formally admit, but in actual acts admit that they have to control,
right here.
They have to control the non-state actors, it will not work.
No, let's take this as a given, Mr. Pirzada. The Pakistani army, once again, like in Kargil, and like in,
Well,
I
I've
think it
already
was in
heard what your
Dalulang in
representative said.
1989,
So why are you,
you
adding
have
something
been
to
caught
that what has been
red-handed
said?
trying to push your soldiers on our side. So what has happened in Keran is very serious, because we here look upon it as a betrayal, Mr. Pirzada. This is pure and simple betrayal.
Okay. First of all, let me correct you. Let me correct you on one thing.
Internal problem.
All right, let me correct you on one point. There is no such thing as betrayal because Pakistan does not owe you anything. These are two adversary states, enemy states. So that's as long as the Kashmir conflict remains, these states are enemy states. All this thing about loyalty and betrayal, that's nonsense. Number two, I don't agree with the Pakistani fellow from Karachi that there is a blame game from both sides. No, there is a blame game only from the Indian media, from the Indian side, and the incursions and the intrusion into Pakistan and the heavy-duty bombardment by heavy-duty Indian guns of the line of control. Come on, guys, what are we talking about? Number three, as far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan does not have the luxury of sending any person to your side because we are too busy dealing with multiple problems in our country, and so therefore your accusations are a media war, a part of a media war, but not a part of the factual war.
As a senator in the Pakistan Assembly would agree with, because Senator, you see, this is the problem. There has to be reasonableness from both sides. There has to be. But if this is the attitude, Senator, then what do you expect?
I doubt it.
One sec. Senator, let me ask you this. When the Indian consulate in Jalalabad there is a blast outside it, just weeks after we make overtures to your new government, who's being reasonable? When our parliament attack is attacked after Agra, who is being responsible?
Look, I want to emphasize on one thing now. Nawaz Sharif offered peace to India. Your Prime Minister went to the United Nations with a long list of blames. He presented a long list of blame on Pakistan. Was it correct? Was it an opportune time to repeat these blames which have been repeated all over our history, all over the past? It was not an opportune time. The proper way was to accept the offer of peace, talk about peace. But you want to talk about war always. You don't want to talk about peace. You want to talk about blames and war, not about peace.
At the same time, you were carrying out these major incursions in the Keran sector. We have proof of that tonight. How sensible and reasonable was that? Now, Kamal Sibal raised his hand out there. Kamal Sibal, please. One coming right after Kamal Sibal. Yes.
Tansi, how substantive your allegation is. What is the proof? 1, 2, 3. What is the proof?
Sir, the proof is there for you to see if you want to see it. Sir, Maruf Raza is responding to your question, where is the proof? As far as I'm concerned, it was a classic military operation.
Mr. Pirzada, we will never agree, but these infiltrators haven't dropped from another planet and from the sky into the Keran sector. They've obviously come by land. And the LOC, sir, please hear me out. Please hear me out.
Sure.
The LOC is the most highly militarized front line perhaps in the world. So neither party can allow any infiltrators to go through without their complete knowledge and support. There are no big gaps on the LOC where some group of infiltrators can walk past while the Pakistan army soldiers are taking a nap on the other side. The fact of the matter is it's happened. Now, General Hamid Gul in an interview to me on this channel admitted that there are hardline elements in the Pakistani establishment who are not keen that Nawaz Sharif should move forward with India. I'm giving Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif the benefit of doubt that he wants good relations with India, as the distinguished senator from MQM from Karachi has brought out. But the fact of the matter is the hardliners don't want him to move so quickly and therefore are escalating the situation there. And let me also tell you that Brigadier Javid Hussein, an ex-special service officer from your army, has twice on record on this channel admitted that these militant groups work in very close consonance with your special forces, with or without the knowledge of the army. So the fact of the matter is, there is a complete
Maruf, I'm glad. May I say
grid
something,
which
Maruf?
operates with the consent of
Response to
Rawalpindi.
Islamabad. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Pirzada.
Sir, my last point
let
to
me just
Professor
quickly
Saab
say
is
something in
that
30
what
seconds
is
or 20
Nawaz
seconds.
Sharif's link with the Ahle Hadith element? There are writers from Pakistan who say, and they have written in Indian papers to say, it was because of this Nawaz Sharif Sahab was given his asylum in Saudi Arabia, and you would probably be able to throw a bit of light on that. So there is a whole nexus working there, which unfortunately New Delhi is oblivious about.
Suppositions and baseless things.
Okay, now may I say a couple of things quickly. Number one, the Prime Minister of Pakistan gave a lot of substantive proof to the Indian Prime Minister that there was a massive intelligence involvement and other involvement from the Indian side into Balochistan. And this was actually even brought up
Your
by
press has
Shiv
denied
Shankar
that, sir.
Menon
Only your hardliners
himself,
write that
and
in
he
your papers.
denied that.
Your moderates
let
have
me just
denied
quickly
that
say,
there was no proof given.
okay, no. The Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon brought it up and then he denied it. All I'm trying to say is Pakistani Prime
No,
Ministers
he said
are
very
not
clearly,
known
if
to
you
have
heard the
raised.
press interview,
They are
we've
not
been
known
asking
to have
for proof.
raised.
No proof
if I may
is
say,
forthcoming.
if I may say, Pakistani Prime Ministers in the past history are not known to have raised an issue like this before. This is for the second time. First it was in Sharm el-Sheikh, but now it was in New York that this issue was raised. Number two,
Sir, that is,
and
sir,
had
that
it
is,
not been
sorry,
substantive,
sir, but
it would not have been
request you to
raised.
show me proof, because that is as absurd. That is as absurd.
I gave you the
sir,
logical
Pirzada is saying
argument.
That I can
I
also
gave
turn
you
around
the
and say that
logical
Nawaz
argument.
Sharif,
Had
I
it
can turn
not
around
been
and
a
say that Nawaz Sharif
substantive
in that meeting also
issue,
agreed that
Mr.
Siachen
Nawaz
is
Sharif would not
rightfully
have raised it
totally Indian
in
territory, and
on an
he had,
occasion
in
as
fact,
sensitive
he had
as
asked
this
for a
one.
unilateral withdrawal from Siachen, knowing that you are at a disadvantageous situation, but your army vetoed it. Would you deny that? That
No,
came
that
out
is
in your
incorrect.
press.
No, that is incorrect. I would say let us
Everything
agree
is
to that
incorrect,
on
so
the
we are
show
talking to the walls.
withdraw. Both sides withdraw as required by the resolutions of 1948. And I tell you one thing, you guys will never, you don't even talk about the
Siachen
resolution
was
of
not
Kashmir.
part of the resolution
That
of
is not
48,
an
sir.
issue.
Should I repeat the resolution of 13th August 1948? There is no mention of Siachen.
Please do
the
so.
ceasefire
Please
line
do so.
ceases well before Siachen. Please look at the map, sir.
Oh, I'm not talking about that issue. What I'm talking about is ceasefire in Kashmir. We are talking about and the issue of the resolution of Kashmir and the commission that was appointed by United Nations. It was about to hold the plebiscite at that time.
Sir, you are going back
your
to
side,
Kashmir.
the New Delhi,
Sir, you are going
shut
back to
And that also
Kashmir
the
has
whole process.
half-baked
and
half-baked facts.
Sir, you are going back to Kashmir and you are not talking about the critical issue. You know, if you say...
Look, there is no infiltration from Pakistan because Pakistan cannot afford
We are
that.
talking about peace between India and Pakistan. So we have to talk about Kashmir, we have to talk about water, we have to talk about Balochistan.
Sir, if you want
we have
to-
talk about
Look,
everything.
there is one thing
and
I have to say.
one issue.
And if
This
you want to talk about
nexus.
line of control only, there has been attacks on Pakistan army in these days when Nawaz Sharif offered you peace. If you want to talk about only that sector,
So, no,
even
what
in
has
that
happened on the line of
sector,
control
you are the
is that-
aggressors. You are the
I would like
aggressors.
to share the breaking news with you. I would like to share the breaking news with you, Senator, that what has happened in the line of control is that your soldiers, your regulars and your terrorists have all been battered back and they are fleeing as of this minute from the Kairan sector. I know it must be hitting
I
you
am
hard,
so
but
glad
that is
you
exactly
brought up
what happened
this-
in 1947.
this side of the story.
That is what happened in 1965 and that is what is happening in 2013. Why don't you learn the lessons of it?
No, in 1965, you couldn't do a damn thing. Your
Why are you
entire Air
still
Force
trying?
was destroyed by Pakistani Air Force. What are you talking about, 65? As far as 71 is concerned, we had an internal issue. You took advantage of that.
History,
So,
if you want
come
to go
on.
into history, Mr. Pirzada, let me tell you
talk about
Gawhar Ayub
today.
Khan's-
Today,
Gawhar Ayub
your
Khan's
forces
admission.
cannot cross the line of control. This is a hard military fact of the present time.
No,
Your
you are.
forces cannot. No, you just are not in a position to do so.
Pirzada is completely, I mean, he's...
I would like Kawal Sibali. You know, we are in a situation tonight. First, let's understand how serious the situation is. I think, with
Give
great
it a
respect
try.
to both the
If
Senator
you wanna
and
be
Syed
that
Tariq
aggressive,
Pirzada and Haider
give it a
Abbas
try.
Rizvi,
You would
this
not
is
be
playing
going
with
back
fire.
alone, alive. I can tell you that.
Sir, Mr.
make a few
Pirzada, this is playing with fire. Like in Kargil, like in 47, like in 65,
Because
your army backs
Indian
the
media,
regulars, you get
Indian
battered back. But you know what?
Indian Army,
This is playing
this
with fire. And I
troika
think
has been
if
promoting
you have no control over your army, I
confrontation
think you should take
with
us into
Pakistan.
confidence
And this
about
was
it.
your media who said in the last 1 year, and you are spearheading that movement, Arnav, that yes,
So,
it's time
Kawal
to
Sibal,
teach a lesson to
no,
Pakistan.
one second.
And I
Kawal
heard
Sibal,
you
what's the
saying that
alternative now?
dozens
What
of
is the
times.
alternative? We see a split down the middle in the Pakistani establishment. No one's taking responsibility for what's happened. What's the alternative?
Well, frankly speaking, there is no prospect of any reasonable peace with Pakistan in the foreseeable future. And you can gauge that from the attitudes of the people on this panel who are responsible. They are senators, and the kind of arguments they're giving, the attitude they have, and the outright lies that they are purveying actually indicates very clearly that there is not going to be any meeting of minds. Now, for example, the senator has said that India is infiltrating people into Fatah and in Balochistan. For heaven's sake, is he implying that we have a lot of Indians on the other side of Fatah, and from there we have staging posts, and the Afghan government is allowing it, and the Americans are allowing it, and the ISF is allowing it, and this is creating problem. Number two, which is the most disturbed area in Pakistan? It is North Waziristan, it is Fatah, it is Karachi, and you have now in Pakhtunkhwa, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa incidents against the church. Balochistan is relatively quiet. And if India was actually so active in Balochistan, Balochistan would be the hottest spot in Pakistan. Number three, he has taken exception to our Prime Minister having said something about Pakistan being an epicenter of terrorism when meeting Obama. Before that, what did Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif say? That he said he's going to bring the international Kashmir up front to international attention. He said Kashmir is the jugular vein of Pakistan. He gives Hafiz Saeed the opportunity to lead the Eid prayers at the stadium, in Gaddafi Stadium. Now, what was the signal he was giving us? If he wants peace, he must create the right atmosphere. And then in the United Nations, he talks about Kashmir more than is necessary if his intention is to create the right kind of atmosphere. There he talks about third-party intervention. He has provoked us diplomatically on a broad front, and at the same time, these people argue.
Brings me to the root issue. No, which brings me to the moot issue, which I wanted to direct this debate towards. That one remembers when Musharraf came to India. Sorry to have to be direct about it. It was not just the doves, those who were leaning towards the doves, the moderates, and I must say the soft hawks as well, who were all in love with Musharraf and who felt Musharraf can do no wrong. The entire Pakistani establishment may be wrong, but here's a good man. He wants peace. We gave a similar certificate to everyone, including Mr. Gilani. But what about Nawaz Sharif himself? Subramaniam Swamy, he's the man in charge. Do you think he's completely oblivious of what is going on?
Well, he's not the man in charge. He has, in the elections, he has made deals with these very forces today, which are represented in your panel, and they are hardliners, and he is not in a position to do anything against them. They have utter contempt for him. He is just a decoration in Pakistan. It's wrong for India to negotiate with him.
No, but Mr. Pirzada, yes.
Of Taliban, they gave a carte blanche to Nawaz Sharif, and army was a part of that. Mr. Nawaz Sharif is the strongest prime minister of the history of Pakistan at the present time. If you can't take the benefit of that man in Islamabad, you can never resolve the issue of Kashmir or the conflict on the line of control. Understand, he has the backing of every single Pakistani at the present time. Mr. Subramaniam Swamy, this is not you. This is your party speaking.
Mr. Pirzada, you came in there. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I must interrupt you because you must go back and read the PMLN 100-page report, and it says that the Kargil operation was a clear and unquestionable diplomatic and military victory for India and another military debacle for Pakistan. It does not say military debacle for Pakistan's terrorists. It says military debacle for Pakistan.
Now you avail this opportunity of...
all right, Arnab,
with...
here is another issue. If Mr. Musharraf was such a terrible person, you were the guys who invited him to Agra. Come on, you've been dealing with every military,
please,
president in Pakistan, and now you are complaining against them. You are the, if somebody is to be blamed,
Mr.
this is you. You should not have dealt with him.
No, you can't, I don't understand the flow of your logic, Mr. Pirzada. I'm going back to Subramaniam Swamy.
Oh,
you
I'm
see, we are
sorry.
used to a
Oh, I'm so
situation where the
sorry.
government and the army works together. You must understand that what is normal for you is not normal for us. And there is a genuine problem the Indian state has in engaging with half a state on the other side. Subramaniam Swamy, how should we deal with the problem long term now?
Well, first of all these incidents that have taken place in the last 5-6 years, they are all mini acts of war. They are people who are crossing into our areas, they are chopping the heads of our Jawans, and we are responding by saying we want peace talks. Now, obviously, this is we are sending the wrong message to Pakistan.
Okay.
We have to respond to show that we can defend our borders in a way which will hurt Pakistan if they try to cross it. That's what needs to be done in the beginning. Then only peace talks can really have any value.
Okay, Brigadier Javid Hussein has been watching this debate and he says he's got on the phone line with us. He's called times now. He says Maruf Raza is putting me wrong, and therefore Brigadier Javid Hussein is on the phone line. Brigadier Javid Hussein, how are you watching times now? Where? You're in Karachi? Good evening.
You just cannot do anything what you did in the
Brigadier?
past. That's your
He
problem.
admitted to you.
You think there's a regional super...
Brigadier Javid Hussein, you're there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well,
Yes, I can.
you're watching the Times Now channel in Karachi, and I think you want to rebut Maruf Raza. There's a slight audio delay between both of you, but since we always believe in being absolutely fair and balanced on every story, I will let you make your point directly to Maruf Raza. Go ahead, sir. Maruf's listening to you.
Yeah, Maruf Raza just a while ago quoted me saying that the militants who are operating in Kashmir, they are being sponsored by the Pakistani Army Special Forces. So as a former Special Forces officer, I can say this with authority that Pakistani Special Forces have got nothing to do with the freedom fighters inside Kashmir. Now, as far as this infiltration, which is the subject of this debate, goes, well, let me again say this, that Pakistani forces have their hands full. There are formations which have been withdrawn from the LOC and committed in FATA. So the LOC is very lightly held. And it would be a mad commander who, under the circumstances, would provoke a fight on the LOC. The question that has to be answered by you, by all the panelists, by the Indian Army, is why is this so-called infiltration being allowed across the most heavily fortified zone in the world? And that too, when the Indian Army enjoys...
Well, I think now you're going back. First, I'll allow you rebut because you rebutted your comment. However, I believe Javed Hussain... 1 minute. Javed Hussain, stay on the line because I think you are going back on what you said earlier. As far as what's happening on the LOC is concerned, let me tell you, unlike in 1989, when you made an attempt and were thrown back after 10 years, Javed Hussain know this, that you have been thrown back immediately this time. That should teach all the Pakistani Army special officers who have done this a lesson for the rest of their lives. But Maruf is rebutting you, Maruf.
Brigadier Hussain, sir, what I said, Brigadier Hussain, that you admitted on this channel on more than one occasion that Pakistan special forces were involved in supporting the irregulars during the Kargil conflict. And by that yardstick and by that example, we can infer that there is a link between the special forces and what General Kayani has called strategic assets for Pakistan. these militants and irregulars, and that link can only have been strengthened over the years because they are the proxy.
You're saying he said it.
Yes, I'm saying, and you admitted that you were involved with them in Kargil up to some extent.
Okay, fine.
And that's the point.
Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the first person to tell the panel or Newshour panel on the debate on Kargil that Kargil heights were occupied by the Pakistan army and not by the regulars, or by the irregulars. There were a handful of irregulars, but they were there. I mean, they had just moved in. But basically, the fight for the Kargil heights took place between the two armies, and I was the first to suggest this, if you recall.
No.
Never did I mention that Pakistan armies...
Sir, I don't understand what irregulars are. What do you mean by Pakistani army irregulars? So Subramaniam Swamy is responding to it. He's quite amused by your description of that term. Subramaniam Swamy, once again.
It has been proved since 1947, and the United Nations resolution is a proof of that all irregulars are under the control of the Pakistani army. That's why the UN resolution asked that the Pakistan withdraw these irregulars from the whole of Jammu and Kashmir, and because it was the opinion of the Security Council that they...
Let's go back into the debate. Javid Hussein, I'll debate with you another time on whether Maruf quoted you wrong, but as of now, I don't think that Maruf quoted you wrong. You had your point, but I think Maruf quoted you absolutely correctly, but you can debate that separately with him later. I want to go back to Syed Tariq Pirzada. No, Syed Tariq Pirzada and Senator Professor Sajid Mir. Now the Pakistani army, regulars, irregulars, whatever you call them, and your terrorists have all been beaten back and pushed back. So what are the lessons that you draw from this? What is the lesson that you draw from this?
Can I interrupt or not?
Go ahead. What are the lessons?
Okay, here are the lessons of the last 65 years. That what you're complaining today is this, that there was an infiltration from Pakistani side, or some elements were sent by Pakistani side and Indians were hurt, and that was a violation of line of control, which is considered by you such as a line of sanctity, a sacred line. Let me tell you, line of control is a line of conflict, and if you don't resolve the issue of Kashmir under Simla agreement, and I quoted you the last paragraph of Simla agreement, this line of control will be dismantled sooner or later.
How do you respond to this kind of pugilistic talk that's coming in from Islamabad?
It will drive the situation to an all-out conflict
tonight. Now let me get
I have learned out of the history of 65 years.
I agree with you, Mr. Pirzada.
What I have learned out of the history of the world, that war is not a solution.
What we have learned is
media is not the place where we need to discuss all the issues among the two very high-profile nuclear countries. My Honorable Prime Minister have given you a deal to that we can have a talk among the DGMOs. We are having complaints from India, and India is having complaints from our side. There is a mechanism that we can deal with the DGMOs, and DGMOs can sit and always talk about the issues. We are always having issues, but the issue is that we need to deal with it with respect to peace. We have to keep in our mind that we need peace on the both sides of LOC. And there are the forums where we need to go.
Stop these incursions. Then you stop the incursions and let the DGMOs talk. I'm sure you've not made the DGMO.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. That from my side, we are having complaints too, but we need an appropriate forum to discuss that. Neither media nor the half-cooked intellectuals who can do that.
I think
DGMO is the appropriate forum. My Prime Minister have already asked you that send your DGMO and we can sit and talk about it.
Mr. Rizvi, Mr. Rizvi, this is, I'm afraid to say, if Pakistan continues these incursions or Kiani, this is brinkmanship. You never know when the situation goes out of hand. Kamal Sibal wants to make a point that I'm closing with the panel.
Don't say it is Pakistan or India.
This is brinkmanship at the extreme.
Arnav, one very brief point. Now, the Pakistani side is saying that they have complaints. Now, I want to be clear. Are they saying that we are sending so-called irregulars from our side to Pakistani-held occupied Kashmir? Is it their charge that we are sending terrorists and militants from our side onto the other side to kill their Pakistani army personnel? Is it that what they are saying? What do they mean by they having complaints against us? What is the nature of these complaints?
The nature of complaints are in Balochistan. India is supporting the terrorists within Balochistan.
But are we talking about the LOC?
India is supporting Taliban in the northwest of Pakistan. These are the complaints, but I never wanted to come up with this because I know what the appropriate forum is.
No. You can't be more absurd than this to say that we are supporting the Taliban. For heaven's sake, look at the statements we are making. Look at the kind of positions we have taken on the Taliban, and now for you to launch this highly imaginary accusations against India that we are supporting the most retrograde
That's exactly what I'm saying. The media is not the forum to launch a complaint. That's exactly what I'm saying. The media is not the forum to launch the complaint.
Number two, I want to clarify. Hold on. Number two, I want to clarify. Arnav, I want to clarify another important point. It was said just now that Nawaz Sharif gave proof to our Prime Minister about her interference in Jammu and in Balochistan. What does our NSA say? He says Nawaz Sharif raised the Balochistan issue. Prime Minister said we are not interfering in the internal affairs of Pakistan, and then he went on to say that we welcome any proof that Pakistan has of our interference, and we will review that. Now, if our NSA did not portray the correct picture, then their spokesman could have said, no, our NSA is wrong. Actually, the Pakistani Prime Minister gave proof to the Indian Prime Minister, but this was never said.
That's a solid point. That's a very strong point. One second, gentlemen. You know, so we are in this situation where we therefore run the risk every day of this kind of adventurism. What would we be prepared for now? Subramaniam Swamy, politics.
Well, I think the main problem is not Pakistan. It's really our weak response to their arrogant and their attacks on Indian across the border. We have made it each time that it takes place, we start talking peace, we start going meeting their leaders. I think time has come to show there is a concept called deterrence in military strategy, and we have to show that if Pakistan exercises this kind of option from time to time, we can retaliate, and we have to do it sometime or the other. The weak response only encourages Pakistan to carry on this double game with us.
Well, gentlemen, you know, we've had a strong debate on this. At one time, eventually the state must take
Swamy, you represent an extremist terrorist party, that is BJP. And your lesson to the Indian people is, let's pick up the arms, enter into Pakistan,
Mr. Pirzada,
you know, this is the problem.
If the BJP represents a terrorist party, then what can I say about Hafiz Saeed? Maybe Hafiz Saeed runs a flower shop.
Hafiz Saeed has been exonerated by the highest.
Let's be serious here tonight. We're talking about the main opposition party of India. Please, Mr. Pirzada, please understand and go back and tell your generals. Tell your generals.
You remember the people who murdered 2,000 Muslims in Gujarat?
Tell your generals that you have been pushed back and you have been battered, and don't try this again.
And don't test our patience again.
And don't
Mr.
test India's
Pindata,
patience again.
you are killing your own Muslims in
I've had a good
Pakistan.
debate. What's happening in Kerala is a matter of
I have
concern.
no respect for
Guests from
BJP.
Pakistan
I can
extremely
tell you,
aggressive tonight.
these guys
Mr.
are
Pirzada, I
the
would have liked to take the debate
dismantlers
forward
of
with you, but I'm
Babri
totally
Mosque and
short of time. I
dismantlers of
thank you all
Muslim
for
culture
participating
in
in
India.
debate number 1 on the Newshour tonight.